Good evening. Welcome. My name is Dr. Matthew Dolliver. I'm a criminologist here in the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice at the University of Alabama. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you tonight your next speaker, Ms. Samantha Tucker. I can say without hesitation, having known Samantha from the time she was a freshman all the way through to now being the chair of her graduate thesis committee, Samantha is one of the kindest, most compassionate, and yet also most driven people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. To meet Samantha, at first, you might not realize the high level at which she operates in all things that she does. From winning the prestigious National Cyber Corps for Service scholarship to working alongside faculty to deliver cutting-edge cyber training to FBI agents in the field. And yet, as I was recently reminded in talking with a top tech entrepreneur, success often demands an incredible amount of doubt and failure. And so with that, Samantha is here tonight to deliver her big idea, celebrating failure, and specifically creating a failure resume. Let me introduce to you Ms. Samantha Tucker.
Hi everyone, thank you to Dr. Dolliver for that wonderful introduction. My name is Samantha Tucker, and my revolutionary idea is that everyone should have a failure resume. A little bit about me is that I'm currently a junior and accelerated master's program student. I'm majoring in criminology and criminal justice and minoring in French and cybercriminology. I'm originally from Illinois, and some of my favorite things are pictured up here, and they are snow cones, summers in DC, my cat Marshall, Starbucks, and Big Al. And if you know me, you know all 5 of these things are really important to me and make up a lot of my personality. Tonight I want to talk to you about my failure resume and why I think everyone should have one. Prior to college, I had never experienced failure in any significant way. I was used to success other than on the occasional AP Calculus test or my National Honor Society application. So when I got to UA and started applying for things, I started getting rejections left and right, and I had no idea how to cope with it. I felt like the little fish in a big pond metaphor people had talked about when I said I was going to a school with 38,000 students was coming true, and that scared me. I wanted my failure to mean something more than an email that started with, "We regret to inform you." So I created my failure resume. This resume lists every internship, scholarship, and on-campus organization I've applied for or to and haven't gotten, and where in the process I was rejected. By the end of freshman year, I had added 9 rejections to this resume. Now I have over 30. I initially started this resume out of my frustration of not feeling successful, but over the last 2.5 years, it has become an outlet for me to showcase all the ways in which I have grown and gone for things. I wanted to change my perspective on failure from a point of pain to a point of growth. And so through the development of this resume, I've learned 3 lessons. The first lesson I've learned is that failure is necessary. Especially as a freshman, this was really hard to accept. I had come from an environment where I was more often than not successful. I may have been cast as townsperson 43 in my high school's production of A Tale of Two Cities, but I still had my name on the cast list, still had a costume, and still got to go on stage. In the midst of accepting the inevitability of failure and learning how to cope with it, I found a quote that said something like, "If you're not failing, you're not putting yourself out there enough." After being knocked down over and over again, I wanted to stop trying so that I wouldn't have to deal with the pain of failing. This quote made me feel like, although I wasn't succeeding in the way I wanted to be, I was still putting myself out there and there was still value in what I was doing. I'm realizing that we as a generation are afraid of failing. The internship I've done over the last 2 years has completely changed my life, and I almost didn't apply because I was afraid to fail. This fear of failure has been evaluated by 2 Nobel Prize winners, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, through the concept of loss aversion. This concept states that the pain of a loss is twice as great as the pleasure of a win. Because of this, we tend to avoid failure at all costs, knowing that it will hurt, and that hurt might be more significant than the success we would feel. Although this concept was created to explain economic gains and losses, it makes sense when evaluating the way we view other gains and losses too. We live on social media and in an echo chamber of success in which everyone portrays their best selves. Through this, we tend to focus on the ways in which we are not succeeding and everyone else seems to be. Creating a failure resume allows for an in-depth look at the way you're putting yourself out there, and in that it normalizes failure, destigmatizes failure, it allows for insight into how we can learn and grow. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in adding things to our resumes and LinkedIn profiles that when we fail, we steamroll the opportunity for a learning experience in favor of throwing ourselves into something else we know we'll succeed at. Learning to accept failure and learning from failure makes what we put into the process worthwhile. The next lesson I've learned is that you may not succeed no matter how many times you put yourself out there. Even if you try your very best, it might not work out, and that is okay. One of the best things my failure resume has done for me is that it has allowed me to see where doors have closed and reflect on why they've closed. I recently got my third rejection in a row from the Blackburn Institute. Blackburn has been a focal point of my failure resume and one that consistently creates a sore spot for me. This year, I put a lot of eggs into the basket that assumed the third time would be the charm, and I would finally get in. Before this year, I hadn't really considered the notion that there could come a point at which I didn't get in, and that was the final result. So when I got my third rejection, it hurt a lot, and because I was out of chances to reapply, I was forced to reflect on why I didn't get in, more than just accepting the loss and moving on as I had in the past. I met with the director of the program, and he told me that I didn't do poorly on any aspect of the application process. I just hadn't done well enough to get in. Even just asking for feedback on this application is one of the ways I've sought to change my perspective on failure, because prior to having this resume, that was never something I was comfortable doing. Through that conversation, I realized that you can do everything right and still fail, and that is okay. I had made Blackburn out to be the be-all and end-all, something that would be the pinnacle of my success at UA. I'm learning that getting everything you go for is not a prerequisite for becoming successful. My AP Psych teacher used to talk about the concept of wind. He told us that trees that grow in harsh environments have to grow deep roots to survive, while trees that aren't exposed to these elements have shallow roots. So when a storm comes, the trees that aren't resilient fall over, while the trees that have adapted and have deep roots are able to weather it. People are the same way. When we experience a lot of failure or wind, we grow deep roots. We adapt to the environment we're in so we can thrive. Adding to my failure resume has served as my way of coping with the wind I've encountered since coming to UA. Failure is all around us, or at the very least, it is all around me. Learning to accept failure and to embrace it breeds resilience and makes us more grateful for the wins we do get. The third lesson I've learned is that it is possible to succeed after failure. This sounds entirely contradictory to lesson number 2, but I think it is important to both recognize that sometimes you won't succeed, regardless of your efforts, and sometimes you will. Accepting both of these realities allows for growth through failure while maintaining hope for future successes. This year, while going through my third application for Blackburn, I was also going through my third application for the Honors College Ambassadors. This was another organization where I'd set my sights really high, hoping that I would finally make the cut. 4 days after getting my Blackburn rejection, I finally got my acceptance into the Honors College Ambassadors. In a year in which I have seriously struggled to maintain my drive and resilience to keep going, getting this acceptance was so rewarding, and having a written record of the ways I'd failed in the past juxtaposed against this win made it feel even bigger. If you haven't guessed this already, the screenshots on this slide are my failure resume. This semester alone, I have gotten 8 rejections, including one from the Big Al Spirit program. And if you recall from my intro slide where I discussed my favorite things, I'm sure you can imagine that this one really hurt. On this slide is my real resume. And I put this up to show that through all of my Blackburn Institute and Secret Service rejections and all the crying selfies I took after each of them, I have found success in other ways. Through my 8 rejections this semester, I was also tapped into mortarboard, elected president of the Honors College Assembly, offered a scholarship to attend an academic conference in September, and today I got an acceptance to present my thesis at a conference in November. Failing as often as I do can be really draining. I have gotten a lot of emails that state that I've not been selected for a program or opportunity, and each of them hurt. Having this resume has allowed me to give my failure a purpose, and it has allowed me to observe growth over time. When I added my first 9 rejections to this resume during freshman year, I had no idea where it would take me. I never imagined that I would become president of an organization that I love, that I would continue my internship for multiple years, or that I would stand before my peers discussing all the ways in which I haven't succeeded. This visual representation has served as a reminder that although I'm not perfect, I am resilient, I'm driven, and I don't give up even when doing so would be more comfortable than failing. Having the ability to simultaneously look at all the ways I've failed while also looking at the ways I've succeeded has allowed me to reflect on who I am and how I've grown in a way that I wouldn't otherwise be able to. So, my failure resume has taught me that failure is necessary, that sometimes doors may close over and over again, and that there is value in those losses, and that success after failure is possible. I want to leave you with a quote that I found the summer after my freshman year that completely changed my perspective on failure. It is by Georgia O'Keeffe and states, "Whether you succeed or not is irrelevant." The first time I read this quote, I didn't get it, but as my failure resume continues to grow, I realized that success is much more about learning and growing than getting everything you apply for. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if you get the acceptance. What matters is what you get out of the process and how you learn and grow as a result. There's a reason employers love to ask about failure in interviews. It is fundamental to growth, and it is worth discussing. My failure resume has allowed me to see my shortcomings, progress, and eventual success, even if it comes in ways I didn't expect or plan on. Whether you succeed or not is irrelevant, so embrace that. And make a point to showcase your failures because they are important too. Thank you.